Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This time it's another video game video, but I decided to make a multi-part series on comic book characters or comic books rather, that have their own video games. Okay? Now, like I said, there are a ton of them out there, and I have a ton of them. So I'm not going to show them all in one video. I went to different consoles and I picked out a couple here, picked a couple there, and I'll make another part, probably a couple more parts to this series, and until I show every one of them that's in my collection. So with that being said, let's get started. I'll only talk very briefly on them because I got quite a few here. Okay, let's start with the Nintendo. We have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. We have the first one, which, as you know, you could check on YouTube. Didn't really get. It's not really that good. You have the second one, which was based off of the arcade game at the time. I think they did a pretty good job. Not too bad. It was way better than the first game. And Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project. This game was just like the second game, which tried to emulate the arcade game. That's it for the regular Nintendo right now. Let's go to Super Nintendo. Starting off with where we left off, I showed you Turtles 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. This was based off of the arcade game of the same name, Turtles in Time. Still regarded as one of the best side-scrolling action brawlers ever released. It did wonders on Nintendo. It looked beautiful, and it was just truly terrific. It was really like the first time a home console system got the Turtles right. Another game that's much like the Turtles in Time game and very popular, Batman Returns. Another side-scrolling brawler like Final Fight, like games like that, Streets of Rage, but this time it's Batman. Really cool game. And the last one I'm going to show for this video from Super Nintendo, this one I still have the box too. The Incredible Hulk. This is where it's a full-blown action adventure where you are the Hulk and you go through level by level, and pretty much it's almost like a brawler, pretty much. But pretty good game. A little hard, a little difficult, but pretty good. And it's also available for the Sega Genesis. With that being said, we're moving to the Sega Genesis. Now, this game right here introduced me to these characters. Now, I got this game before I became a big comic book fan. Once again, it's very much like the games that I just showed you. The side-scrolling Turtles in Time formula where you choose a character and you go each level fighting hordes and hordes of enemies with, you have your life bar and their life bar. I've always loved that formula. But anyway, I got this game for Christmas back in 1992. Captain America and the Avengers. This is before I even knew who most of these characters were. I never heard of Vision or Hawkeye or anybody like that, or Iron Man. It wasn't until I played this game that I was introduced to a lot of these types of characters, like the Mandarin and Grim Reaper and the Red Skull and all that stuff. I had heard in passing who Captain America was, but wasn't very familiar with Marvel characters as I was with DC at the time. So I thought that this game, which also came out for Super Nintendo a year later, I thought that this version of it was the best. Moving on, two more Genesis games I want to show. This one right here also came out for the Super Nintendo. Spider-Man X-Men Arcade's Revenge. This follows pretty much the storyline in Uncanny X-Men 123 and 124, where I believe those are the correct issues, where Arcade abducts certain X-Men. They added different characters to that story. They added Gambit. They added I don't know if Spider-Man was involved. Was he involved in the original story? I don't remember. But anyway, it was pretty much based on that storyline that happened in those two issues. The game's okay. It's nothing to write home about, but it's just yet another comic book video game. And the last one I'm going to show in this video for Genesis, it's pretty sought out. And it's pretty cool, and once again, it's a side-scrolling brawler like Final Fight. The Punisher. Pretty cool game. Yeah, it was a little. This only came out for the Genesis, okay, and it's kind of expensive. It's kind of hard to get. I mean, maybe it's not hard to get. It's just pretty expensive to get. Let's just put it that way. But really, really cool game. If you have an emulator, a MAME, try playing this. A lot of fun. Not a very long game. I don't like games that are super, super long, that are just take forever to beat. I like to get in there, play them, beat them, play them again at my own leisure. I got one game here for the Sega Saturn, as we're moving from system to system. X-Men Children of the Atom. I think this was the first game where the X-Men were entered into that Street Fighter II-like fighting engine, where the characters were done up really, really nice, very comic book looking, very Street Fighter looking, and given Street Fighter like moves. If you played Street Fighter, you would do the Hadouken. Well, if you did that with one of these characters, a power would come out. They would do a power. So pretty cool game. It had a very short roster, but this game kept coming out in various different incarnations as years would go on and be part of a very popular series. I think this was the start of it right here. So that's it for the Saturn. Let's move into, I've got a couple other things here. Like what I was saying with the X-Men Children of the Atom, I think that series, you had X-Men versus Street Fighter and all those different things, but I think that series eventually morphed into Marvel versus Capcom. Well, I have this one, Marvel versus Capcom 2 for the Sega Dreamcast. Way better than X-Men Children of the Atom, way more advanced, beautiful 2D graphics, a lot of characters, a lot of fun. And they kept improving on that series with each and every installment. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Is there a 4 out? I don't even know. Got a couple PlayStation 2 games to show as we're winding down a little bit. We showed you The Punisher on the Genesis. Now we show you The Punisher on PlayStation 2. This was based off of the Thomas Jane 2004 Punisher. Basically an action-adventure game where you're the Punisher and you have to sometimes interrogate certain characters that you meet up to get information, and you can interrogate them quite gruesomely. So it was a lot of fun to play this. Pretty cool game. And a couple others. These next three are Diablo-type games, dungeon crawlers. The first of which, X-Men Legends. When this came out, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much, but I felt that there was something missing from it. Basically, you could choose through a bunch of X-Men, and you play through like in a Diablo-type environment where you're just constantly fighting hordes of enemies, leveling up, getting new powers, all that stuff, and eventually you gotta beat Magneto. I thought that this one right here was way better. I think it was more or less the same video game engine, but I thought the story was a lot better. This time the Brotherhood and the X-Men team up to fight Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen. Pretty cool. And the best one to come out, I think, out of that series morphed into the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, where it was not just X-Men, same Diablo-type gameplay, okay? But this time it wasn't just X-Men characters. You had X-Men, you had other Marvel characters like Iron Man, Spider-Man, and all that stuff. This came out a couple of years before the Iron Man movie, so this was pretty much right on the cusp between when some of these Marvel characters really became very popular. And of course, for the PlayStation 3, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. Now this one, interestingly enough, is based off of the Civil War storyline. We had Captain America Civil War, the movie. I mean, it didn't quite follow, the story. It didn't follow it at all. It took some aspects of it, which was fine. But this follows the comic pretty well. So, pretty cool one to have. And the last few for this particular video, I have for the Xbox 360, a Spider-Man game, which I thought was fantastic. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. In this one, you get to go through all the different, a few of the different Spider-Verses, where you're Peter Parker, then you're Miguel O'Hara, then you're, I forget the names of, Peter Parker back then, right here, was the Ultimate Spider-Man before Miles Morales took over, and the Spider-Man Noir. You get to go into each and every one of their universes, and each one of those universes are so distinctly different. Especially the Spider-Man Noir, where you take on like this stealth-like gameplay, where everything is like this noir type setting, dark and depressing. I loved it. It was really good. Excellent game. Really excellent game. And the other two that I wanted to show off for this particular video, Batman Arkham Asylum. This was really one of the best Batman games ever released. They incorporated so many of Batman's villains excellently. And what was really cool about it was that the animated series actors came back to voice the roles of the characters they played on the series. Batman, in particular, Batman and the Joker. And the second one, which I think a lot of people regard as the best one of the series, because there was a third one that came out, but the second one, Arkham City, where this one was more inside the asylum and on the grounds of the asylum. This one you had a whole city to explore, and incorporated more villains and more excellently written dialogue and story plots. I think it was terrific. Very good. Well, that's part one of my video games that were based off of comic books. I'm probably going to have a couple more because there are plenty of games out there that were based on comic books. Plenty of good games that were based on comics. And I'll show some of the ones that were kind of crappy too. Okay? Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.